Well, how was your Thanksgiving? Did you survive? We are down to our final couple weeks of the class, and I'm going to do a live Zoom this week. I'll let you know when that's going to happen. Hopefully, you can attend, and maybe I'll get to see put some of the faces to your names. Um, the weather's been kind of nice. No complaints with that. Fires are out. It's very fall-like in the air, and so that's always pleasant. And movies are continuing. What are you guys all watching? Are you watching anything interesting? This week I saw a really awesome, what I thought was a great miniseries called Queen's Gambit on Netflix. Really unusual, really different story about a female um, chess player in the 1960s. And if you know anything about chess, there hasn't been very many, hardly any throughout the history of chess. Anyway, it's been so popular, that series, that people are buying chessboards like crazy. I think that's awesome. Chess is, I know it just a little. It's a very intense, beautiful game to play if you really get to be good at it. I never was. But instead of some, you know, movie with a bunch of car crashes, everybody's going out and buying new cars so they could crash them. They're buying chess sets. Wow. There's hope for humanity. Anyway, I highly recommend it. Um, I don't know who the girl is. She's really excellent in it. Really unusual. Her take on things. And I'm a guy who hardly likes anything. Anyway, I hope you guys had an interesting week off. We've got 2 or 3 more weeks, I think, whatever it is, to 17th, 3 more weeks. And so we're scaling this down. I got to assign one more essay, and I'll do that this week on one of your classes, not both of you. I'm doing both lectures for both classes right now. One of you has already done, I don't know which one yet. But what you also have to do, the next final things that are remaining, the final 2 things are you're going to do a final paper, and you're going to do make sure you're going to do your journal, and that's handed in not to the last week of school. The final paper, the last week of school, but I'm going to assign it this week. So look for it in assignments, and I'll pick out about 10 topics, and you pick one to write about it. You want to write about musicals, write about it. You want to write about a favorite director or somebody you don't know about, a foreign director, write about it. You want to write about black exploitation films, write about it. You want to write about brand new movies, now's your chance. You want to go back in time and write about something. I couldn't, obviously, we can't cover it all, but we do the best we can. Or pick one of the ones I'll list for you to write about. Or if you want to pick a subject, you just had to give a hold of me, and you have to run them by me. Someone already did that today. And I usually approve them. But now this is not an essay. This is not a critical analysis. Now, this is a research paper, and you're going to research whatever the topic you're going to research. Let's say you pick a director. Let's say you choose, who's your favorite director? Quentin Tarantino. And that's who you want to do. Well, then you're going to not just do a thumbnail sketch bio from Wikipedia. You're going to research what makes his movies. Why does he connect so well with the culture, the pop culture, usually, especially the younger part of the culture? Why is he so successful? Do you love his movies? Do you like them? Do you think they're cool? What is it about that? And so write your paper about that. But don't just tell me that you like it because you think it's cool or there's a lot of cool violence or something. That's not really right telling me anything. Write about the man. Let's have some insights to who he is, how he works, what makes him tick, what how he's gotten to this point in his life as this rarefied career he's had for the last 30 years. Not many people have that. He can do whatever he wants. All those movies are different. They're all unusual. They're all original, and they make a boatload of money. So people are waiting for them. He doesn't follow the usual trajectory, superheroes and all that. Write about it. Go deeper, and it'll be minimum 3 pages. It could go as many as you want, 4, 5, 6 pages. I don't care. But you're going to have to put in some research on it, and you're also going to have to probably have a works cited page to tell me where you got your information. That's going to be what it looks like. We'll talk about this more as we go along this week. I'm going to try to have a Zoom call this week. I'm thinking about Thursday. We'll see what happens. See how many people can show up. I will print the Zoom link in announcements, and you just click on that. Hopefully, it'll show up. There we all are, and I'll do a lecture that day, live lecture. Aren't you excited? And then take whatever questions or issues you might have, or how I can help you make the last couple of weeks less painful anyway for you. But and then that's it, folks. And it's gonna, then after that, it takes me at least 7, 8 days to do the final grades. Don't bug me about that. You know how slow I'm on the grading, and before final grades are due. Today, I want to briefly talk about something that was in the New York Times this week. Yes, folks, New York Times. You should read it once in a while. Maybe you do online. And this one, the article struck me because it hits close to home. Hollywood's End, the sequel. That's an abandoned theater. You guys know Hollywood at all? This is Hollywood Boulevard with the stars. That's a movie theater that is shuttered because of the pandemic. In the 110-year history of Hollywood, they are facing an upheaval like they've never faced before. And it goes on to about 4 very long pages of how Hollywood is always struggling to stay relevant. I'm talking about not just the movies, but where we watch these movies. That's key. If we don't have a place to see these movies, what changes? Now we're all watching things at home, right? Maybe some of you watch them on your iPads or on your iPhones. You're watching, Tom Hanks' new movie on your iPhone. Do you think you're losing anything? Is that experience satisfying? Do you like going to a movie theater, maybe getting some popcorn, getting a soft drink, and kicking back in a comfortable chair with a bunch of loud surround sound, total immersion in the visuals that you see on the screen? Is that important to you? Is that something you're missing right now? I know they've had some sort of openings of movie theaters, but it's not the same. Right now, there's, I don't know how many movies that have already been made. They're in the can. That means they're waiting to come out into the theaters. But these are big budgeted movies, $200-300 million movies, and they don't want to release it onto a streaming service. So they're waiting to release it as best they can in a movie theater. But people really aren't going there right now. Yes, there's a major lockdown almost throughout the whole country, but also people are still leery of going out in public and sitting in a room with a bunch of strangers, like me, coughing. You got to sit there with your mask. So it's an environment that we're all not craving right now. It's a dangerous environment. Let's face it. It can be or could be. So, long time ago, in the 1950s, you saw a little bit of this in that documentary I had you guys write the test on Easy Rider Raging Bulls. Television came through and just about wiped out cinema. The cinema going experience, excuse me, cinema going experience. People were staying home in droves because of TV. TV was free, folks. You with an antenna on the roof or rabbit ears on your TV, you could watch 3 networks. Now you had commercials. You had to sit through the commercials. So the commercials paid for the content. You didn't pay for the content. The commercials did. And so you had to sit through the commercials. But that's what everybody did. So nobody cared. It wasn't a big deal. Plus, the commercials were rather brief. And they usually, on an hour-long program, were every 15 minutes. Now, it seems like I don't have a regular TV, so I don't watch regular TV. Everything I do is streaming, and I pay to get rid of the commercials. Now, it seems like when I'm in a hotel room, I can't believe how many commercials there are on network TV. It's insanity. It's like every 3 minutes, there's another 5-minute commercial. So it didn't used to be that bad. And but it made people not want to go to the movie theater. Why go to the movie theater when all the entertainment is right here at home? And so people stayed, this 1950s, into the 60s, they stayed at home. Their entertainment was home and television. They called it the boob tube generation, which I'm a part of. I think I spent my entire first 20 years sitting in front of a television. Now I'm spending my last 20 years sitting in front of a big screen TV streaming. Nothing's really changed. But going to a movie theater to me and to a lot of people was a ritual. Movies in my hometown changed once a week. And so every week, I didn't care what movie it was. This is before we had Rotten Tomatoes and everybody reviewing movies. You went to the movie. I couldn't wait for the next movie. And some of them were silly, B sci-fi movies, biker movies, westerns, but I loved them all. And some of them were brilliant, that changed the course of my life and the culture's life. And as you well saw in that movie, Easy Rider Raging Bulls. And so it was that important. It's what I did. Some people they follow religion, they go to churches. I found a community in going to movie theaters. There was a collective want and desire to understand life through cinema. I'm still struggling with those things to this very day, folks. Do you like going to the movie theaters? Do you miss going to the movie theater? Was it important to go to the movie theater? When you go see a new Eddie Murphy comedy or Adam Sandler, God forbid, so-called comedy, are you there? Does it help being in a room with like-minded people who want to be there and they're all laughing and you're all kind of laughing together? Or if you're watching a scary movie like Get Out or whatever, some new scary movies or Jaws or something, or Star Wars, you're experiencing it within the group, and there's this collective experience that's happening with strangers. You don't even know people around you, but you're in there together. So when the scares are happening, you're being scared together. And when the laughs are happening, you're all laughing together. And that sense of community and collective experience is what's being lost right now. Can we get by without it? I'm sure we can. It's like going to see live music. Do you guys like live music? I know you like downloading music. You might like somebody on YouTube, but you go to actually see live concerts. That's all done right now. No live concerts. It might take another 2 years for them to come back. Can we survive? I mean, we don't have the cure for this disease yet. We're still shut down. It's going to take a while. So in Hollywood, because this is a cinema class, that's what I'm concerned with. What is the future now? When they tore down, when TV came in, Hollywood, as you saw in that documentary, hopefully you saw it and enjoyed it, by the way. Hollywood didn't know what to do. They didn't know they'd lost their audience, and they didn't know how to get it back. And so what they started doing, they started selling the property where the studios actually were. They started selling off acres and acres of property because they were going bankrupt essentially. And so where 20th Century Fox was, now it's called Century City. It's a bunch of condos and office buildings. That wasn't there before. That was all movie studios, but they couldn't afford to keep them. So they sold them for commercial property. That's how bad it got. People weren't relating to the movies. The older generation, especially, they're fine sitting at home in their pajamas, having a beer, watching the Jackie Gleason show. That was good enough. So, what do? Well, like in that documentary, there were visionary filmmakers who kind of turned things around, and they made the youth, the college age people of America, interested in cinema again, something they couldn't see at the home, something they couldn't see on their TV. Only they could see it at the movie theater. And so those great movies, like you saw in that documentary, from The Graduate to Bonnie and Clyde, to The Wild Bunch, to Easy Rider, Five Easy Pieces, the 150 movies that came out in that area, changed everything. And it changed it turned the culture upside down, and it made people of a certain age, and I happen to be of that age then, about 16. I wanted to be in film. When I saw those things, I go, that's for me. I want to do that. Before then, it seemed out of reach. I couldn't do what Hitchcock do. I couldn't do what Howard Hawks or John Ford. That was a Hollywood thing. It was beyond my grasp. But boy, after I see Easy Rider, there's a possibility I could do maybe something like that. It looked possible. I could relate to it. Not that I was a biker hippie. Maybe I wanted to be, but I was still too young. They were telling some stories that we could relate to. And so now the money coffers, the box office is starting to build up again. And now they stopped selling parts of the studio off, and people are going back to the movies because they were experiencing things that they couldn't experience in their homes. One is the visual experience of seeing certain things on a movie theater, like, say, for example, 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick, would have been really dull to watch on a small screen TV. It was, at the time, cutting-edge technology, long before CGI, folks, which has really, to me, ruined a lot of special effects because it's all too easy now. You can do anything you want, but you couldn't in the old days. And the old days was maybe 40, 50 years ago, not that long ago, kids. They had to do it the old-fashioned way with ingenuity and being clever and being creative. And they would make models. Star Wars, the whole thing was made with models this big, folks. The original Star Wars. And you saw that in that documentary, if you watched it all. Jaws, they were filming out in the ocean. They had a mechanical shark for reals, and it was always breaking down. It was a pain in the you-know-what. But now they would just put a computer-generated ocean, computer-generated shark, and it'd look great. It'd look awesome. But something's lost in that. The technology, in a way, is making it too slick. So it's not lifelike. It's otherworldly. It's fantasy. And so these young filmmakers, Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, Sam Peckinpah, and the rest, brought Hollywood into a new era, and from the television era and made people want to go to the movie theaters again. And we went in droves to see The Exorcist, to see Jaws, to see Star Wars by the millions. Now we're on a roll again. And we're going through the 80s, not my favorite time of the era of movie making. We'll talk about that later this week when I do the 80s. And now we're cruising. And now here we are in the 2020s. And movies have become, you know what they are, what you go to. Maybe you go to these movies. What's at the mall? It's usually the big blockbuster sequel type movies. They might have cutting edge technology, but they're not cutting edge, folks. They're just rehash of the last movie that was just made. And if I was in class with you, I used to ask people, why do you guys like sequels so much? And they go, well, there's familiarity in it. And I go, you want to see the same movie over and over again? See, sequels were not a big deal in the old days. They barely had any. Now it's James Bond, I think, when I was a kid, was the biggest sequels that we'd ever had. I think, I went to every one of those. I love the James Bond with Sean Connery, folks. And the new ones are okay, but he's lost, Daniel Craig's lost his sense of humor. The great Sean Connery, who died over the last 2 weeks, the first Sean, he did 7 or 8 or so James Bond. We couldn't wait for the next one. And so sequels were going on, before Jaws and Star Wars and all that. But they really got going after Star Wars. But Hollywood's making a boatload of money. Now we're getting slammed. Pandemic. It's changed everything. They shuttered movie theaters. How do you go see Black Panther or Once Upon a Time on Hollywood or Get Out without going to a movie theater? It's not the same. The last time I was at a movie theater, I think it was for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because I wanted to make sure I saw it on the big screen. When I travel, which hasn't been lately because of the pandemic, everything's closed down, I always go to movies. That's what I do when I go to different towns. Not the mall theaters, folks. I find the little independent movie theater, like they have a bunch of them up in Portland, and they have a bunch of them in San Francisco. Like the Pageant, if you go to Chico, or the Varsity up in Ashland, the art theaters where they're going to show something, I hate to say it, a little bit smarter, a little bit not so dumbed down, maybe a foreign film if you could take it. And that's what I seek out, and gives me comfort to this day to go see a movie in that environment. I feel at home, at peace. And then I gotta leave and try to find my car, and the peace is upended. Anyway, so how would you like to see these big movies, like I just mentioned, in just on your small screens? It's just not the same. Yes, we could get used to it. Obviously, we will. So what do we do now? What's the next step? How long is this thing going to happen? It's going to have devastating effects, I think, on the future of filmmaking, maybe in a good way. It's like during the 70s when music got really bad, folks. Yes, folks, disco was bad. And then punk rock came out, thank you, and blew disco out of the water. They never made that kind of money, though. And all of a sudden, there's hope. There's hope in rock and roll. And it's not the Bee Gees or Donna Summer. I like their music. I'm not taking anything away from it. I'm just saying it ain't rock and roll. And so here comes the Sex Pistols and the Clash and Patti Smith and Talking Heads and the Dead Boys, and they changed everything, just like those filmmakers in the 70s changed everything. We're going to have something that changes this. Now, what they're going to do, and they're already doing it, they're going to take a series like this Queen's Gambit that probably would have been a feature film in a movie theater, and they're going to make it into a mini series. So we're going to have a lot more of those. It's, on all Hulu and the rest of them, Amazon, that's for sure. But scaling down the visual images, you have to scale everything back. You have to scale back more than just images. You have to scale back stories, ideas, because a small screen story is different than one that's on a screen that takes up an entire large auditorium. It's a different experience. So yes, we're going to lose something in that. And this article, it's pretty depressing because all these great big theaters are all closing. It's so it says here what happens in 2022. That's what they're saying. It's not going to make a comeback till at least then, maybe. Do we want to go to movie theaters anymore? Or are we just going to be trained, young people especially, who maybe didn't go to that many movie theaters, and maybe it's okay to stream Hamilton, the musical, on this? Maybe it's okay. They got to look at that. The filmmakers have to look at it. Generation Z is a crucial audience. That's not millennials anymore, folks. Sorry, your day's done. So Generation Z is that about 24 and younger or something in that area? It's your ball game now. You can control the bucks, and you're also going to control the creative content because you're going to be writing screenplays. You're going to become filmmakers. You're going to go to film school, but you're not going to be filming for the big screen. You're going to be filming for streaming, which is going to change everything. So we're in another one of those moments. The old Hollywood is definitely not what it used to be, and maybe it's time it isn't. It's okay. Revolutions happen for a reason, and good comes out of this stuff, hopefully. The phoenix rises out of the ashes, and maybe one day we'll be able to go to movie theaters without any masks, and we'll be able to sit into a room with a bunch of people we don't know and laugh at the new, Sandra Bullock comedy. She's still making those. But we're not going to get back to normal, whatever we think normal is, for quite a while. We're in the pandemic times, and this is where we're going to stay for a while. Okay, folks, that's my news today about cinema, the death of the movie theater. Is it permanent? Do you care? Does it mean anything? Or does it mean everything? Or is it symptomatic of the entire culture? Restaurants, music, gathering of any sort. It's all wrapped into the same. It's all in the same ball game of losing our in-person humanity. On that happy note, I'm going to announce the Zoom later, and the rest. I'll see you guys in a couple days. Hope your holiday was good, peaceful, and you stayed safe. And remember, because maybe you've forgotten, everything is cinema.